Bakken is the world's oldest amusement park. It opened in 1583, which doesn't even sound real. It certainly didn't start off as the amusement park that we know today. Its origins are actually of a natural spring that people discovered there, and eventually entertainers started coming, tents were set up, yada yada yada, and now here we are in the 21st century and we got rides. I realize I skipped over a lot of stuff in between, but I'm here to talk about what you can expect when you go to visit Bakken in the present day, which I could essentially describe as a plussed fair. Bakken is really nice, but the vibe you get when you're walking around and you're looking at all of the different rides is just very carnival-esque. Right away, one of the main things that Bakken has in common with a classic carnival is that it is free to enter and then you pay per ride, or you can get a wristband. Anyone can just walk on into Bakken, which is great. A park like this absolutely benefits in that way. There's so much more to do here than just rides. A lot of people come here just to get food. Bakken arguably has more restaurants and places to eat than rides. And because of its location, literally in the woods, surrounded by trees, I imagine there are plenty of people who come here just for the atmosphere. Which, I mean, to put it in short, is very chaotic. It's not overly bright and colorful and flashy like you might find at maybe one of the German fairs or even Wiener Prater. But many of the rides that you'll find here are definitely some of those plug and play, like they just plop them down, you're good to go. We only did a handful of the attractions here because we actually elected not to get a wristband, which I think looking back on it, the wristband definitely seems like the best value here. So I'll kind of talk about the pros and cons of getting a wristband versus paying per ride. I did 4 rides in total, which were Rutschbanen, Tornado, which I actually did twice, the Mine Train, and then the Ghost Train. So one ride on Rutschbanen and Tornado is 50 kronas each. For those of you in the United States, that's a little over $7. But those are the 2 most expensive rides here. You're going to pay a little bit less for the Mine Train, as well as the Ghost Train, and any of the flat rides. They also have a Wild Mouse and a Kiddie Coaster. I elected to skip those 2. I think if I had gotten the wristband, I probably would have done it. If you get the day of, you're paying about 300 kronas, and that gives you access to all of the attractions here. That's about 43 US dollars. I know if you pay for your wristband online in advance, sometimes you can get a better deal. Like every once in a while, you can get it for like 250 kronas. So that's definitely the best way to save money and maximize your time. I think because we chose to pay at each attraction, it definitely made things a bit more of a headache. Like one of the big reasons for that is that not all of the attractions accept card. You have to pay with cash or coins. Now, sometimes you can find change machines in each of the queues, but at one point we actually left and we went and found an ATM in the park so that we could use it at each of the attractions. So I would say, just to be safe, plan on bringing some cash when you come here to Bakken. I did enjoy the rides that I did. I mean, I thought Rutschbanen, which is, the signature ride here, was really tame and underwhelming, but it's also like really old and it's a classic. So I'm glad that I did it, and I would still recommend that you experience it. But having just gone to Tivoli Gardens a couple days earlier, that Rutschbanen is just miles and miles ahead of this one. So don't expect a ton with this one, although I did quite enjoy the oddity that is the tunnel right here. Very, very strange. I have a full separate review already up on this channel of Tornado. That's the Intamin spinning coaster. Be wary of this one. It's wild. The Mine Train was also a lot of fun, had some good forces and a couple near misses with some of the trees. And then the Ghost Train was fine. Definitely one of those old school classic dark rides, but I've definitely done better. The ride was mainly filled with props every once in a while coming at you trying to scare you, and it was just, I don't know. I wasn't too impressed. It was kind of spooky though, I'll give it that. There's some strings hanging from the ceiling that would run across you and a spider that like actually hits you in the face. It's not real though. There's also apparently a really good funhouse here that we unfortunately missed, but we've done a bunch of those throughout Europe and they're always super fun. At Bakken, you can also find a Zamperla Nebulas, a small S-Nest shot tower, and a super swing. These are all mini rides that you would find at like a boardwalk park. Not a ton of originality, but maybe for some of them, this is the only park in Denmark that you might be able to find them at. I do think it is about time though that they added something new, at least in terms of roller coasters. Their last new one was their Wild Mouse in 2012. So at this point, it's been over 10 years. It'd be awesome to see a modern inverting roller coaster here. At this point, they do not have any roller coasters that go upside down. I think Gerstlauer is a great pick, but Bon Bon Land has a Eurofighter, and I feel like if they were going to get anything from Gerstlauer, that's probably what it would be. So I'm leaning away from a Eurofighter. A modern Vekoma would be cool. You do have Phoenix, though, about 5 hours away at Far Up Summerland. Maybe if you got one that was different enough, though, from Phoenix, you could even go with one of their smaller ones, kind of like one of those rides in China. Those are good because they're thrilling, but like not too insane. So that's a decent option. I really like the idea of an RMC Raptor here. Those things are so compact, relatively affordable, and very different from every other attraction here and in the country of Denmark. And then the last thing I thought of is an SNS 4D free spin. That's a cloned ride, pretty affordable. The main downside is the ride experience in a way kind of feels like a flat ride. And so I wonder if they're wanting something that's more of a traditional roller coaster. I imagine it might be a little tough for them though. Bakken sits on protected land, which is great for preservation, but also makes things a bit trickier when they want to build new attractions, especially when you also have some nearby neighborhoods, so they have to think about noise levels and whatnot. But regardless, I would say this is a park that you could plan on spending maybe a couple hours at, possibly a half day, but I would not call this a full day destination. Even if you got the full wristband, the park is just not that big. You don't need to plan a full day here, especially when sometimes their operating hours are like 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. That's a lot of time to spend at Bakken. We didn't even stay as late as we thought that we originally would when we got here. I think a big reason that we left early was I would say that this was overall a park that I wasn't as impressed with as I originally expected. Like, it was cool for its history, but honestly, that's about it. It didn't even feel like the world's oldest amusement park. Tivoli Gardens in Copenhagen felt older, which is fine, you know, that they have like some modern attractions and all. And walking around the park, it was nice, and I liked the fact that there were so many people there and people had their dogs and walk around. Like, it was a very cool vibe, very clean. But overall, it was not necessarily my kind of place. I think if I was a local and I was just looking for a place to like nonchalantly hang out, I mean, I would say Bakken feels repeatable in regards to the fact that there are so many different restaurants, so you can eat at a new place every single time, find tons of great food, but there weren't any rides here that I just wanted to do like over and over and over again. You know, the closest I'd come to is maybe like Tornado, but I thought that was actually too insane, so I imagine that's a one and done for a lot of people. So I'd say if you're at least a theme park person and you're coming to Denmark and you're trying to decide what places to visit, I mean, I understand wanting to come here for the historic value. Being able to say that you went to the world's oldest amusement park is pretty cool, but I much preferred Tivoli Gardens and even more so preferred Djurs Summerland and Farup Summerland. But I know those are a couple hours north, so if you're just trying to stay in the Copenhagen area, I think it's fair deciding to go here instead. But I mean, hey, even if you want to and you're really tight on time, you could do Bakken and Tivoli Gardens in the same day. I would probably say start with Bakken though, and end with Tivoli Gardens, if you do that. I also just gotta add, I am not a fan of the mascot here. It's this clown dude. He's very scary looking. I don't like him. I'm very glad that there was not a version of him walking around the streets of Bakken. Otherwise, we would have had a problem. But anyways, let me know down in the comments below if you've been to Bakken outside of Copenhagen in Denmark. If you agree with the points that I've brought up, if you think there's anything I missed. Do you think I was fair in my assessment? Like, I'm not saying Bakken is bad or anything, but on the list of parks that we did this past summer, this is definitely one of the least memorable and probably the least likely that I would go back to. As a tourist and a theme park fan, it's probably a one and done for me. But if you think different, I'd love to hear why down in the comments below. And of course, remember to stay tuned for more theme park related reviews here at Coaster Studios, and we'll see you next time.